Good. Welcome, everybody, to this answer session on the Antssys ATP. I've given you all a little bit of an outline of what we're going to achieve here today and what we're hoping to do. Thank you all for attending. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I like to try and make it as interactive as possible. I want to make it as interesting and meaningful. If you have a question that comes up during the session, you are welcome to answer it. I may wait until the end of the session to deal with it, just in terms of practicalities, if I feel that it's breaking with the flow of what I have in mind. If it fits with where I am at that particular time, I'll be happy to answer it at that moment. So we'll just use our initiative to deal with that. What I want to just do is, guys, here's an overview. You will all be familiar with Daryl Guppy and the GMMA system that he invented. He first described in the early 1980s. I've got some statistics here in terms of the web usage, in terms of the actual technician, the trading platform, the engineering of the platform that we use. Absolutely fascinating. Every single person who's ever loaded a chart ever on our system, excluding the ANTS indicators, uses a moving average of some kind. So the concept of moving averages is incredibly robust. It dates back for several decades. And of course, Daryl Guppy, he'll laugh because he is a grandfather, but Daryl Guppy is the grandfather of the GMMA, the Guppy multiple moving average, where Daryl was very clever to describe, by changing the speeds of a group, a cluster of EMAs, or even simple moving averages, he overlaid them on top of each other, which gave you a beautiful visual presentation, as you can see in this little page here. That's a cluster of moving averages. Now, moving averages, when you divide them into groups, you have, in our instance, we have two groups that we keep visible, a fast group and a slow group. Moving averages, as described by Daryl, very cleverly, when your fast group is of a certain speed is above your slow group, price is rising, which allows us to identify trend. So incredibly groundbreaking. And the great part about it is the system is built on technology that is brand new, cutting edge, HTML5, highly client-based performance stuff, but at the same time is based on architecture that goes back decades. So very, very exciting. Right. We have partnered up. The team here, a group of traders here in London, partnered up with Daryl a few years back, and we've been bringing the Antss ATP, our trading platform, to all of you for a while now, with a high level of excitement and a high level of success. Just to deal with the basics, and please, guys, for those of you who've done this all before, please bear with me. I just want to go through the basics of how you access the system. I think it's important that we do that quickly, just so that everybody who's new to the system understands. Simply come to the Antssys.com. Just remember the double S. It's Antss system. So ANTSSYS.com. Plug that into your browser, and you'll be brought to our web page. There's a great deal of resources here. I'll spend a couple of moments on those at the end, and you'll see the great big button. You can't miss it, and it's populated as a couple of places on the page. Is the Antssys trading platform now available with Oanda? You then select simply whether you're going to go into your live funded account, whether you want to use live funds based on your live funded Oanda account, or your demo account. Simply click which one. I'm going to be using the demo environment today, just for fun. I usually use the live environment. Today I've decided to go with demo, just to show you what it looks like. By the way, features-wise, they're identical. We don't throttle back any of the capabilities of the demo environment. We give you the full featured experience. You'll be brought to this pop-up screen. This only has to be done once, guys. Check the tech. You'll see that will then allow you to put in your name. I'm just going to go Neil Demo. That's me. And that's me. And let's log us in. It'll then take you to your Oanda credentials page, which you then sign in. Guys, by the way, this study is available. The guide to do all this is available on our website and on the forum. So if you need it, just ping us a question and we'll make sure you can find it. Just send an email to support@Antssys. I'm going to be using my primary pound-based account, which you will then give permission to by clicking allow, and you can see it'll then start the system. Right. And this is where you arrive, guys. This is the beginning of the journey. This is the beginning of the, wow, look at that chart. This is the beginning of the journey, the partnership that we've got. I'm going to, just for purposes of presentation, I like to have a dark background. So if you'll just bear with me, I'm going to change the background to the dark background. I find it slightly better for the presentation. I know for those of you on a smaller screen, it might be a bit easier too. And that's it. You'll arrive in this environment here. The system has been designed to be as intuitive and as clever as possible. There are going to be a couple of things that jump out at you quickly just to start. And I'm just going to show you what those are and why it is our system is so clever. I'm just going to turn all of this stuff off quickly. Many of you will be used to something that looks very similar to this, which is a basic, you're putting your instrument, your symbol, your study, your chart, your CFD, or whatever the contract is that you're doing. You can see there's lots of them. As you start typing, they will populate. So simply like that. You guys will be used to seeing this, which is wicks and candles. The first thing about our system, which is a massive leap forward, is that we changed from using time-based charts to using range-based charts. The reasons are, I'm not going to get into them now, but there are several very compelling, very, very good reasons in terms of when you're plotting linear maths, particularly where you're creating moving averages while using tick-based data where your x-axis moves faster or slower based on the information that you're getting, rather than your x-axis being fixed in a time-based stamp here, for example, 15 minutes. So this is what you guys would be used to seeing most often. So the first thing we do is we make it onto a 1-minute chart, just we pull the maximum data, nice high speed of refresh, and we start to overlay the Antssys indicators. Now, these are what you get included in the ATP, all thrown in and included. All you need to do is open and fund a live trading account with Oanda. You immediately get access to the demo environment, which is included, so you can play. And all you need to do to get continued access, and kind of why we've bumped this is there's been Oanda have been great. They've given us a great grace period of about 6 months now, where people who haven't logged in, we haven't suspended access. But there is talk at the moment in the corridors that is something that is likely to happen, which is why we wanted to just make sure that all of you who've looked at the system, now is the time to make sure you take the opportunity, and then also to showcase what we've been doing. We've been really busy in the laboratory responding to you guys, to use that verb, you spoke, we listened. We've made a number of big changes to the system, to the platform, to deal with those things. Right, very quickly, I just want to deal with each of the indicators that come as part of the studies, as part of the Antssys indicator suite. You'll see under our little menu here, there's the Antssys menu. The first one is what I'm going to do is, first of all, let's just change this to a range bar. I'm just going to change it to a chart that moves a little bit better. I just pull up a pound Australian. It's one of my favorite charts. So the first thing we do is it'll automatically populate any US-based pair with a 3-pip range bar chart. Now, don't worry about we're not going to get into the maths of it at the moment, but just so that you understand. So we've changed from a candle-based chart, which looks like this. So you're looking at the same thing. It's the same information, just expressed differently. And all of this pixelation, all of this up and down, this chop and in between, we've taken in to make it much more granular, much more we pixelated. In other words, we want it to be very much more linear in its expression. And the first thing that you'll notice is how much easier that is to look at in terms of information. Then the next thing we do is we add the Super Guppy, and boom, there we go. Look at that. Immediately, some of you more astute amongst us will immediately see what the information is about to give us. Since about 10:30, by the way, I'm at 12 o'clock London time, GMT, so my x-axis is expressed as my local time, and you can see from about 10:15 this morning, there was a turnover in the Guppies. This is where we talk about Daryl Guppy's architecture. We've got a fast group, which is this blue group up here, followed by a slow group, which is what we nicknamed the super group. This is called the Super Guppy. And you'll see that when the fast group is above the slow group, i.e. blue is above orange, price is rising. And you can see conversely, when blue group is below orange, price is falling. And that seems to be true. That seems to be largely true in this instance. The next thing we do is we've got what we call an MA crossover. This is purely a moving average crossover, where based on the position of these two moving averages, the 60 EMA and the 300 EMA, when the 60 EMA, the blue line, is above the orange line, 300 EMA, price is green. When it's below, price is red. And it allows us in an instant, in an absolute heartbeat, that we can determine whether price is rising or price is falling. Absolutely incredible. Within nanoseconds, at a glance from across the room, even to a person who's never seen a chart in their lives before, we can determine that this price has been rising since the crossover at about 10:35, 38 this morning. You can see that there's been a turnover. Let me just turn on my cursor, then we can actually check when it crossed the crossover. So the crossover happened at 10:43 this morning, local time, so about 2 hours ago. An hour, I take it back, about an hour and a quarter back. So really, visually, guys, you can see how exciting this is. We've gone from a candle-based chart, which gives us very little information. We've stripped out the noise by changing into a range-based chart. We've overlaid it with a moving average crossover, which gives us a color. It shows us if green is buy and red is sell. It's as simple as that. and then we've got the super guppies, which show us the trend. In other words, the wider the bands, the MA moving average lines, the more aggressive the move, the more compressed and condensed they are, there's a slowing down in price. So again, you can see slow down, huge acceleration, slow down, huge acceleration. So visually, a great deal of data that comes to us that natively we can look at and understand. Very exciting. The nuts and bolts, the little I'm just going to zoom back a bit so we can see this a little bit better. I'm just going to turn on my trading tab, give us a bit more space. The nuts and bolts of the system of these ants, and you can see they fire very cleverly. They actually provide us with buy and sell signals, and there you can see them very clearly. There was a nice little sell signal at about just before at 10 to 8 minutes to 10 this morning, and a very nice buy, sell short. So what did I say? Buy signal. Nice short signal just before 10 this morning, and then a nice, very very nice long signal at 10:44 this morning. Now just to give you guys a heads up just on this, just looking at this now this morning, that's since 10:44. Let's just put a little radius line from that point there to where the signal fired to the highest point that it's got to. That already is moved 95.1 pips. So that'll give you an idea, that'll give you some indication of the power inherent. Let's just look at this little short this morning. That moved a total of 17.1. So two good little trades that came as a result of the ants firing. Now, a couple of niceties we've built along on top of that, just very quickly to deal with those. We've got what we call the MA channel, or the zone. This is a safe zone that we've identified on either side. You can see it just tracks the 300 EMA, which is where we tell people, we instruct people generally when you're starting out, the closer you can get the ant firing. In other words, if the symbol fires, the signal fires as close to this band of gray as possible, then you mitigate your losses. In other words, your trade management is better, your risk management. Again, I'm not going to deal with that too much, but just to give you an idea, it isn't just a group of indicators and studies and signals on a chart. It's actually an entirely mature, substantial trading system. That's the ANTS channel. And then finally, the ADR levels, which you can see. Wow, look at this. You can see since this morning, it's punched through I've been asked to speak a little slow by my colleague Grant. It's not a problem, Grant. Not quite sure how to get rid of the lines pinging up there, but we'll see. Get rid of that. You guys can see the ADR levels. ADR is the average daily range. Just where we get that from, you can see this is price on this chart has gone through the 75% level up to the 100% level beautifully. Look at that little trade. You've got a fire here. We've got a statistical chance of about 80 to 83% that price will go through the 75% level at any given time during a day. So where do we get that information from? Just to show you, on the Antssys website, on the homepage, you can see there's a tab for average daily ranges, and you can see they are published here. So guys, on this you can then arrange according to speed. How many? This is the total pips that have been generated. This is updated at midnight. It's on GMT. So if you're in Australia, you're going to have a 2 or 3 pip difference, and if you're in New York, you're going to have a 2 or 3 pip difference. So don't worry if it's slightly out. This is a pretty good expression, though, of daily range. Now, the reason that we do this is we say, why would I trade a chart like Aussie CAD at the moment, which is a 5-day 97 pip range, versus something like Pound Australian, which is a 255 pip range of the last 5 days? Extraordinary. 259 over the last 10. So good, consistent performance there. I quite like Pound Australia. It's a good one for me personally. The argument being, if you're looking for a 30 or 40 pip daily target, you're much more likely to see it on something that travels 255 pips in a day versus something that travels 84. So that's the reason that we do that. Let me just get back to that. Now, I've got 6 screens running here, guys, so it takes a moment when I switch back to Windows, which is the environment that I'm running in, just for it to catch up. So there we are. Bear with me. Right, we're back again. So those are the ANTS indicators. There's also an ATR, traders ATR, which Daryl refers to, is very fond of. He wrote the maths for that we've built into the system. I'm just going to clean this up a bit, just so that we can see it a little bit more clearly. And those deal fundamentally with the ANTS indicators, which are all included in the bundle at no charge. As I say, all you need is open and fund an account with and I believe their funding level is $200, which is small, and make a couple of trades, about 5 trades a month, and you get the access to the platform for no charge to you at all, which is extraordinary. Okay, guys, just to deal with some of the new features, I've bumbled on quite aggressively here about our stuff. I'm going to break away from Antssys just for a second and just show you what you get as a product, which is all built in, all included as a bundle in terms of that you get. And these are the couple of new features that we've built. The first one, people were complaining that the ability to make multiple charts was difficult. So what we did is you simply open up a new window, copy your URL, and boom, you'll see it'll populate another chart. Now, we used to have to open separate windows for each of those in terms of separate browser windows. We've changed this now. You can have as many as you like, and then you can actually you can open up as many widgets as you like. Mark's asked a quick question. When you get the signals near the 75% ADR, yes. Okay, so let me explain his question. Marcus asked, if you get a signal near the 75% ADR, let's just overlay those so we can understand what his question was. You can see in this instance here, the signal fired well below the 50% level on GA. You can see it fired down here. We know statistically we've got a great chance of getting from here to here. If a signal fires up here, obviously, guys, it's a diminishing opportunity. A chart will generally reach 100% or 100% up or down of its ADR, but the chances that it's going to go from 50, this level here, to 75 is almost you're hitting the right side of almost 90%. So it's almost a given. Where the chances that it goes from 75% from this level here, from 75 to 100, let's just get to it. So if this chart is going to continue from this point here to that point there to 100%, that drops off to about 60%. So for those of us who are the statisticians, a 60% probability may be a compelling enough reason to stay in a trade. Then it depends very much on your trading appetite. So in other words, we know this price has already gone from there to there. So it's done what it says on the tin. It's done the 80% chance of it doing it. So boom, great trade. Would have been a lovely trade for a good 80 or 70 or 80 pips. What are the chances it's going to continue beyond this point? Well, it's a diminishing return. Would you take a trade at this point here? My answer to that is probably not, because your price is really far away from your 300 EMA, and price is quite likely to retrace. If you were to go long at this point and price fell back to the 300 EMA, it's going to be pretty costly. Let's just work it out. So you've done all that good work, and price falls back here. You're looking at a 44 pip drop before you even see whether the information is true or not. In other words, in terms of the price structure. For me, wow, waiting 44 pips on a good trade to see whether or not it's still true is just too expensive for me. But that's me. I tend to trade reasonably conservatively. Back very quickly. I hope I answered your question there, Mark. Great question. Thank you. A couple of the other features, guys, I just want to show you, and these are bundled in. The top, I've got a list of the top 10 studies that people actually physically use all the time. And they include moving averages, MACD, Bollinger Bands, RSI, stochastics, volume underlays, momentums, ADX, and so on. All of that stuff, guys, is built into the ATR. I see Grant is typing. He's about to. Okay, good. Thank you, Grant. I see he was typing, so I managed to click on his window. It didn't pop up. Okay, guys, you can see in studies, look at this. It's absolutely extraordinary. Look at the amount of studies are actually built into the software at no charge to you. Now, some of these I'm going to concede, I don't even know what they are. But for those of you who are looking for a Koppel curve, it's built in. Incredibly intuitive, very, very clever, all visual, very right mouse button, left mouse button, very, very clever stuff. So these are the extras that are built into the system, as I say, which even if this is a new environment to you, we've built a whole bunch of new stuff into it that's going to make you feel more comfortable. A couple of other ones. I'm just going to turn those off. Turn off range bars. We've added Renko. Fantastic. Renko, of course, is a brick building system of range bars. So in other words, it's a range bar. It's a range bar of a range bar. So it smooths things out even further. Absolutely extraordinary. We're using a lot of Renko to support our longer term stuff at the moment. It's a great indicator. Obviously, your standard bars and candles and colored bars and what have you is quite nice. Just a little. I mean, if that's your thing, you can. We'll just turn over the. By the way, the Antssys indicators are the superhuman indicators. They override anything else in the chart. So if you've got the Antssys MA crossover turned on, they will override So in other words, it's not that the chart isn't working, it's that we've built it to block off everything else unless you turn it off. So simply by turning off the MA crossover study, you can now change it to, whatever you like. There's some really clever, really funky tools built into this, guys. I'm not going to get into them now. Again, they're probably a little bit much to deal with all in once. We've got point and figure, we've got Heiken-Ash, we've got Kagi charts. And what's quite cool is you can actually, by changing the color of it, you select your color and put in a different symbol, you can overlay, you can plot multiple instruments on the same chart to compare them to each other. Again, I'm not going to do that now because it's going to start getting a bit busy, but a couple of really, really clever functions. Probably the biggest development, the biggest change that we've had since we started this is the trading functionality. And this is something I want to just spend 2 minutes with. Let me just have a quick time check there. 20 minutes, good. This is something that I want to spend a bit more time with you guys on. The intelligence we've built in, most people, and we're traders ourselves, so we know, most people have a charting system, so something that's giving them the information that they need, and then they have an execution platform, something that they use to trade on. We've combined the two. You don't need a separate trading system and execution platform. All you do is you bring up your trading tab, whether you want to go a position order or a market order. Market order is the live order. Put in the size of the trade that you want to make. Let's put 200. It'll automatically calculate the value based on the instrument that you've chosen. This is done automatically. You don't have to work out what your risk is and your exposure. It does it yourself. I'm just going to turn that off for a second. It's in the way. Okay. You then simply put in your stops. Let me just turn that off. Let's say we want a stop of 20 pips and a take profit of, say, 50 pips. Okay, obviously this is not a great time to get into a trade because we've just seen a big movement. Let's just say, for argument's sake, we're going to put in a sell order and you submit it, and automatically live on the chart, guys, your trade is then submitted. And you'll notice we've now got a live trade line which is shown at the position that you took with price in the background. Your stop and take profit levels are automatically populated on the chart for you, which is absolutely extraordinary. Really, really clever stuff. If you then decide, for whatever reason, that you want to change your market order live, all you do is click on, for example, my stop, and I want to move it. Take the stop and drag it. Let it go, and then replace it. You can see where. There you are. Thanks, Grant. I'll get to it. We're on tab 1. What you'll have noticed as well is in this environment, what you'll see is we've introduced a whole bunch of new icons across the top. Again, I'm not going to drill into them with too much specificity or too much detail, but you can see there's an overview, there's a trade management, there's a performance dashboard, and then there's the ability to close and stop your position. So in other words, there's now a close button, which is this close all button here. So in other words, if you decide you want to tank it, you just want to climb out of the trade, you can do that from that position there. You can see our trade is now in profit, so the ground line has gone green. Again, we're doing a counter trend trade, which is not necessarily in the textbook, but that's what we're doing. And then you can actually see as well, you can, by clicking on the actual the order, you can actually then also manage and the type of execution. Again, slightly more technical now, but your ability to manage your trade live on your chart is now built in. You then change it and then cover the order if you needed to. So those are new features that we built in, very much to make it very much rich. I'm just going to close this trade. We made a little bit of profit, 9 US cents. Good job. Thanks, Grant. But these are extras that we built in, guys, because you are asking us. People were saying, "Oh, we don't know where our trade is, so we now show you. We can't execute on the chart." Yes, you now can execute on the chart. We can't manage our stops. Yes, you can. You simply click and drag them. So these are new features that we built in that are really, really functional, clever things. That's probably as much as I wanted to get into in this session. We've taken 30 minutes, which is around about the time that I wanted to. I'm going to be just a second. I'll start dealing with your questions. Stand by 1 second there, Joe. I just want to share with you quickly a document which Daryl sent to me which I'd like to share with you. Daryl, as part of his system, using the Antssys ATP, so using our trading system, he plots he pulls up charts and he gives trade signals 3 times a week as part of the OANDA subscription. And using the Antssys ATP, he then generates trade opportunities. He looks at the shape of the charts in exactly the same way that we do, using the ants, waits for a signal to form, and then makes an assessment. And some of the statistics, this is looking further back, obviously up to January 2016, but some of these are actually extraordinary. Just to give you an indication that 69% of his trades have been exited at his target or higher, which is quite extraordinary. 87.37% of the trades he entered has been exited at a profit, including those exited on stop or below target level. So in other words, 87% of his trades went at some point into a profit. In terms of his trade assessments. Absolutely extraordinary. And this, you can see, this is available through OANDA. But you can just see, and this is from Guppy Traders, the performance that one can see. Again, looking at January's results, this is the most recent. I might be moving a bit quickly here, so apologies if it's all moving a bit fast. But you can see, again, average of 332 pips per trade with a 87.5% profitability. Absolutely extraordinary. So that's the sort of performance that you can see. I'm just going to swing back to my charts. 1 second. Again, all 6 of my screens take a moment. They all flicker and get a little bit too lally. No, try that again. Sorry. And back here again. Right, guys, that's probably as much as I want to go through. Let's take a moment. Joe, you've asked the question. Your question is, we're going to just throw the floor open, guys. Let's use this last 15 minutes for you. By the way, all of you will be getting an invitation to, you'll be sent an invite to watch this recording. And then our plan is to do another one of these in more detail. All of you are invited again, where we're going to be talking in more detail about the technical trading, not just the features and benefits, but the actual technical trading system I've been discussing, very much more of a hands-on live screen sharing and so on. And we're going to be doing this at the same time next Thursday. So in a week's time, you'll all be sent an invitation for that as well. Right, questions. When are alerts going to be available? Joe, I'm not sure I understand the question other than you say when are alerts going to be available. The alerts themselves, you mean in terms of a noise on the chart or a call to action, a ping or an email or something? If that's your question, that is something that a lot of people have asked for, and that is in the laboratory. We hope to have something available soon. Just so that you know, we have a number of products in the developments, extensions of this, including what we call the ATPX, which is an MT4 plugin, interestingly, which is going to be available soon-ish, and that will include some of the alerts. So yes, those alerts are coming. I know, in fact, ironically, that's something that Mark asked for, and he's just asked the next question. You're welcome, Joe. Mark's question is, how does Daryl do it? I have a lot of trades where the signals are all with me, and you've cut off there, let me see. But it reverses. Any advice? Right. To drill into the specifics of how Daryl is doing it would be silly, because that's what he does using his architecture and our system. That is a trading system which is built around his philosophy: trade risk, trade management. What I would suggest you do is, Mark, why don't you let's do it this way? Why don't you post your question, Mark, to our forums? You have got an invite. I'm pretty sure you've been ping an example. Give us a screenshot of what you did, and then let's speak about it together. And that's something that everybody can then see a practical example of what you've done, and we can then strip it back and talk about practically why it may or may not. In other words, if you're seeing you're getting at a point and it's reversing and being counter trend on you, then let's look at, you use typically the 3-2-1. Let's look at longer, stepping back further in terms of time to see where we might have got an insight to what went wrong with your trade. I'd happy to answer it now. But it's something we've not done before, and and to keep it transparent, by posting it in there, it's for everybody to see. So the educational is shared. You almost certainly find that you're not going to be the only person. So Mark, if you wouldn't mind, I know it's a little bit of homework for you, and I apologize in advance for that, but just do a screen grab, throw it out, go into the forum and just start a new thread that says, I'm battling with this trade, or take a look at my trade. Let's all crit it, and I will join you there and we can talk about it together. I think it'll be a great way to build some excited. Thanks very much, Mark. The question from, can we subscribe to signals? Joe, yes, I'm not sure of how he presents them with OANDA. I know he does a 3-weekly update. It's a good question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it offline to just determine exactly how he does that. I know he uses our ATP to do that with our signals, but I'm just going to have to confirm how one subscribes, what's included in that. So if I'm going to, don't mind, Grant, if you could remind me, I'm just going to park that question for a second on how you actually access that the educationals that Daryl does 3 times a week. What is the link to the forum? Nisa, there we go. Great question. I'm going to just switch screens again. Wait for the whoosh. The quickest way to get there is go to our Antssys page, and you can see under support, there's a link to the forum. If you click it, it'll bring it up, and you'll see, guys, here. Yeah, Grant could be. You can see it'll take us straight through to the forum, and you can see, guys, here we've specifically got a section of the Antssys trading platform for Oanda. So there is a section dedicated to each of the topics and things that we've been talking about. So that's where you want to post your Oanda questions. No problem, Mark. I'll make sure. Yep, got it. Thanks. I'll make sure you're on that link as well. Nisa, I hope that answers your question. Right, the 1-minute chart, Nisa, quickly to ask you a question. That's a great technical question. We've had a couple of people ask that question. All right, hang on, stand by. Like I said, all 6 screens, they like operating in one environment or the other, and my switching between them dazzles them a bit. When you're using range bars, when your range bars are enabled in your chart here, make sure that this is set at 1 minute. The reason that we do that, because we no longer, ironically, we're not using time anymore as our x-axis, we're using volume. This comes down not to how often how many minutes it polls by. In other words, to create a bar, it's how frequently it polls the server for data, and that polls it an average of a minimum of about 2 times a second. By changing the time-based setting when you're looking at range bars, in the background will poll the data later and make your range bars lag. Now, unfortunately, you can't have both worlds operating in the same space. We had to have one or the other. So just be aware when you're using range bars that you must have this set to 1 minute. If you change that from 1 minute with the range or tick-based data, in other words, Renko and range, it will give you a skewed data. The data is true, but it isn't going to run as the ticks are published. It's going to run the polling system at a different speed. Right, let's just see if there's any other questions here that I have missed. No, that's it. Okay, guys, we've still got another minute or so. We've done 38 minutes, and I wanted to do 45, so now we've got another 5-6 minutes. There's still a good 20 or so plus people hanging around. Guys, please be, how do I say this? Please be our friends. In other words, we're an ordinary bunch of really normal folks. We are traders just like you. Many of us have come from careers in other disciplines and have come in and enjoyed this trading, made a bit of a success of it, and have decided to share some of the architecture with you guys. So we're the same people. We're not graduate professors in statistics. We're ordinary people, and we've learned this stuff by doing it ourselves and learning it ourselves. We're certainly, without being silly, we consider ourselves to be experts in this particular discipline, in this particular thing, range bars particularly, in GMMA. This is our architecture, this is our business, but we're people like you. So please don't be shy ever to ask a question. Our excitement, our pleasure is derived from seeing you guys get a success of it, and that only comes if we know what you want from us. Right. He's a clear answer. You're welcome, by the way. Any advice on stop losses? Mark, quick question. Money management, trade management, trade risk is a deeply personal thing, and I'd be amiss at making a swipe at it on the basis of a single line question. But I also don't want to scare anyone off making it too complicated. One will tend to find, and I'm just going to bring up the ADRs again for a second so you can see them. Just looking at our forum and looking at these ADRs, the average daily ranges, let's just populate from the top. On a chart like Euro US, which is a 96 pip range, I know it's a wide rule of thumb, but I've typically worked on a stop of between 10 and 15% of the value of the ADR, including your spreads. And that typically worked quite well for me, because if you find a chart that's only moving 100 pips, if it moves more than 10 pips or so against you, you quite likely are on the wrong side of the trend, plus spread, of course. Now, some of these are not great examples because your broker might be giving you a really expensive, really wide spread. But I've typically found that that's a reasonably good rule of thumb as a starting point. I know that that's not hard and fast, and I'd like that's in fact I'm going to do some more homework for you, Mark. Post that question to the forum and let's look at some pairs together. Let's pick up you give me your top 3 pairs that you want to look at, and we'll together on the forums we'll work out a couple of ways that we can look at your trade management in line with your account balance, without being too specific. Guys, when I trade, I never ever in my worst day ever, with the worst trade I could ever do, never risk more than 1.5% of my account. That's the bottom line, and that then leads itself into when you're working out what your targets are, that your stops never burn up more than about 1.5% of your total account. Anything beyond that, I start to feel is very much more gambling than it is trading, and we're traders, not gamblers. You want to see an index like the Dow? Yeah, sure. Let's have a look. Now the Dow, it's not an index IYM. It's not an index I trade myself. So I'm going to just have to check what the it's the US 30, isn't it? Is that right? The US 30 is the Dow. Is that right? Just pull that up. Okay, now again, first thing you just see is the range bars are doolally because they're the wrong size. The first thing we need to do is change, because the decimal points on the range bars, we need to make that a 0.1. Let's make it a 0.3, make it a 3 pip range bar. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. There's a 3. Oh, hang on. Is it 0.3? See, again, it's not a chart I'm familiar with, so you don't have to bear with me. I'm hacking a bit here. But this is how we do it. See, it can't be. In fact, it's a 0. So let's have a look here. Oh, there we go. Boom. Okay, thanks, Grant. I'll ping it in a second. Right, so that, because it's a flat index, so 1 pip is 1 point. Just by entering a 3 will bring up your chart. You can see a very nice, great looking chart, guys. Look at this. Just wow. I mean, thanks, Lisa. You've given me a great educational opportunity here. But you can see price down, retraces, color change, Antssys, and boom. I mean, I couldn't make this stuff up. This is with a 3 pip range bar on the US 30. Just from that point of entry there to there was 85 pips. Absolutely extraordinary. So again, just make sure, guys, that your range bar settings are in line. Your range bars worked as a pip, as a tick in this instance, a point of your decimal value. So it's a 0 decimal value. So one is 1. So 1 pip, 1 range bar is 1 pip. 1 point. So just make sure when you're filling in the values that this is a 3 on the Dow. Great looking chart, guys. Good example. Wow. Look at a turnover. So again, a little bit far away from me on the 300 EMA. Would have been outside the zone. But there, by the way, we're looking for the color changes, guys. So this is just a tip. You look for the first color change before you trade. So in other words, you wouldn't take multiple color trades. So there's look at this chart. There's a color change, and then you trade that long. There's a color change, you could trade that long. That one lost. Color change, beautiful short. Color change, trade that long. So we've got 4 winners and 1 loser, and the winners have been probably about a 5-to-1 reward to risk ratio. Not bad. Pretty impressive, in fact. Lisa, did I answer your question? I'm concerned that I've moved over a bit quickly, but I've tried. Again, any more questions, guys? Bang them on the forum. Let's get the forum cooking. Let's get some activity in there. Then Mark, last week I discovered if I had 50 pip stop loss, I won about 14, 15. Oh, wow. I know we're going to deal with one on the forum, Mark, but that's classic. Last night, in fact, Anthony and I were back testing some of the charts that we're looking at. We're trading oil at the moment. And if we had a 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio, so probably 30 pip stop, 30 pip loss, we would have had an 87% accuracy on a 1-to-1. I mean, and that's always a great way to trade. But working out how wide that stop needs to be becomes a bit of a science. Now, there are things that we've got available, tools we've got to help you with that, but it very much becomes a personal thing. Right, Guppy asked the question, will there be a development to have Charter Key to work with Firefox and Windows? Guppy, it should work with Firefox and Windows 10, does it not? That's a very good question. If you wouldn't mind, that's new to me. It should absolutely work on Firefox. I use Chrome because it's stable, but I personally trade with Firefox. That's a great question. Grant, I don't know if you've heard anything about that. I don't know that we've had any problems with Firefox on Windows 10. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, Guy, if you could just ping me that question, either post it in the forum or ping me to support@antssys.com, and I'll look out. It'll assign you a ticket, and we'll look at that together. To my knowledge, there should be absolutely no problem with it. There shouldn't be any difficulty at all. That's it. 45 minutes and 46 seconds. I couldn't possibly have finished it at a more perfect time. Any more urgent questions before we go, guys?
Neil,
Yes, Grant, go ahead.
Neil, just Grant here. Just quickly, a question on that issue with Firefox. Could you just ping a note what happens when you've tried Firefox, so we've got a bit more information on whether you've tried it or whether you just want to know if it works?
If you don't mind, Guy, just if you pick that up, if you could just give it a try with Firefox, it should work. If you're saying you're getting problems, ping me to support@antssys.com, and I'll be glad to look at it with you. Okay, guys, thanks very much. That's it. Thank you all for joining us. You'll all be given a copy of this recording. I think we've achieved exactly what I'd hoped to. Grant, I can hear static on your microphone. If you just want to mute you, I don't want to be rude. Thank you. Guys, thanks very much for joining us. I've had a good time. I really enjoy talking to people. It's something that I get a great deal of energy from. You can see this is a great little charting tool. I say little. It's a great big charting tool. It's got a whole bunch of really good stuff in it. Immediately, without even asking, we've got some really good questions going. There is a survey that's attached to the end of this. In fact, maybe there isn't this time. In fact, I didn't do a copy. No, guys, what I'm going to do is I'll be sending you each a short survey in the next 24 hours. That's going to come out with asking you some questions around this. If you wouldn't mind taking the time to answer that would be great. I'd really appreciate it. Mark, you're very, very welcome. Lisa, you're very, very welcome. And Tio, sorry, I'm answering everyone by name, but I just want you guys to feel welcome. You really are friends of ours, and you're welcome. Guys, giving us feedback shapes the way that we present information to you next time around. We can't always be all things to all men, but we certainly try, and women, we certainly try. And if you have a question, not only do we read it, we action it. We listen to what you say, and we want to help you be successful. And with that, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time, your trouble, your questions, your interest, and joining me. Nisa, a quick question there was, how to set range of the different counters. What we'll do is, great question. I'm going to do more homework. Post it on the forums, and we'll set up range bar sizes for each of the instruments. So we'll say, for example, the US30 is a 1 pip range bar, and the Japanese is a 0.01 as a range bar, and USD pairs pound Australian is 0.0001. That's just that you can be sure of what the correct range bar sizes are. Give me some homework as well. Pop that on the forums, and I'll be glad to answer it. Thanks, guys, and thank you all very much. Veselin, thank you very much for joining us. And guys, please ping us a question. Support@Antssys if you've got a question, a problem technically, and if you've got any questions, bang them on the forum. If you can't get access to the forum, it means we haven't assigned you a key. All of you should have access. If you don't, it's very, very quick to put you on. Please don't hesitate to ping us, and we will add you. Thanks very much for your time, guys, and thanks for joining us.